Welcome to Akwaaba on Muntu Bantu Digital Narrowcast. The thoughts, views, opinions expressed by the host of this narrowcast are for educational purposes only and may at times become entertaining or nonetheless serious in nature due to the topics we select and cover. We are not exposing, revealing, indicting, or telling you anything other than what's already reported by the big budget mainstream media. We look to shine the light of Baba Mungu by exposing what is done in darkness to light. Enjoy the narrowcast.
Welcome to Akwaaba on Muntu Bantu.
This is Jade Phoenix Rising.
And this is your brother SilverbackKONGO. Welcome, Jade. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm super excited about today's message. and today's Narrowcast. And I just wanted to give a quick hello and thank you to all of our listeners and our new guests that are listening into our show. I just want to remind our family that on Club Akwaaba, we are all about educating, elevating, and encouraging our listeners to grow with us. And when I say grow, it's like when you hear a narrowcast that really hits home and really encourages you, or at least gives you some kind of insight, we strongly encourage you to share our narrowcast with others because we want to grow as a community, as a group, and we also want to encourage our community to grow themselves. And the whole purpose of our club, Akwaaba, is to do just that. So if you've enjoyed any of the content that we've shared with you in the past, even as you hear our Narrowcast today, we strongly encourage you to think of others, encourage others, because our community, as we talk about it, we can grow together. And yes, we all have challenges, and we all, if you confide in a friend or family, share your woes. But we want to encourage you to share some good news, to share some insight so that our community will take things to another level and improve their either their spiritual walk or just how they conduct themselves in their family life or in their workplace. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And for those who are returning, welcome back. And I really hope you enjoyed today's Narrowcast. With that said, Silverback, do you know what today's Narrowcast is about?
Yes, the Narrowcast. Today's topic is crabs in a barrel,
Crabs in a barrel.
and
Gosh,
it's
that's an interesting topic.
yes, episode 008.
008. Yes. And I particularly loved our last Narrowcast. We had some very positive feedback. I have a few friends that were really inspired by the Mindset series, where we talked about how we can elevate our thoughts and overcome depression. And our last Narrowcast specifically focused on Muhammad Ali and how he had this incredibly solid mindset of being an achiever. He is one that really has his mind focused on winning, but also too is very strategic and keen on how he can achieve his goals, and he never compromised. And so if you haven't heard that Narrowcast, please check it out. That's this part two of mindset, and definitely you will enjoy that. But for today's message, before we get started, we want to transition and get in the word of the day. And we would like to talk about that. So if we can get a visual on that.
No problem. Here we go. There goes the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful mug.
Yes. Oh
Yes.
my God. I absolutely love this mug. This mug is gorgeous. Let me tell you about this mug. This mug is actually a tumbler for those who love to drink hot teas and coffee. This is one of those, and it's made of stainless steel. It's a 20-ounce mug, and it has an inspirational quote on it. Now, I love I love positive mindset, and I love affirmations, especially if it's spiritually based, where, it's all about being focused and getting ready for the day and just remembering your value and your self-worth. Now, of course, if you're deeply rooted in your word, you don't actually need extra affirmations because you know who you are, you know who you serve. But it doesn't hurt to have a nice, beautiful mug. in your morning to just feel good about yourself. And I actually love the visuals on this mug. This mug, it's black with some gold type of embroidery type of patterns on it. It has a beautiful image of this, this black queen, they call it. And on the mug, it has these sayings. It says, "You are beautiful, victorious, enough, created, strong, amazing, capable, chosen, never alone, and always loved." Now, that is just, simple bulleted uh, encouragement, words of encouragement, but below each of those words are scriptures. So there's a little homework there for you. So, this mug is a beautiful mug if you want it for yourself, if you want to gift it to a friend or family. I strongly recommend it, but I think in terms of the quality and the beauty, I think it's $24.95 on Amazon, depending on where you're looking, because sometimes you can compare prices and find it for cheaper. But definitely for $24.95, you can get one of these as a gift or for yourself. And I absolutely love it. And also, I noticed, and I think this is pretty creative. I'm a visual person, and I'm into all of the colors on this thing. But on the back of it, it says, and it's pretty clever. It says nutrition facts, serving size, one phenomenal woman. Melanin dripping, 1000%, beauty, 1000%, intelligence, strength, queen things, and magic, 1000%. Cares given, 0. But the other ingredients includes brown sugar, honey, caramel, and dark chocolate. So not only is it beautiful and inspiring and clever, but it is pretty durable.
Is nutritionally, it's pretty nutritious.
Oh, it says nutritious?
Yeah, it says.
Did I miss something?
No, I'm saying the nutritional facts. Nutrition.
Oh yeah, the nutritional facts.
It's pretty nutritious. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, well, it's blackalicious.
Blackalicious, yeah.
Blackalicious. But anyway, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and it's not your average tumbler. They have so many out there, but I think having this personal touch it will make a nice gift. I absolutely love it. I don't have one yet, but I'm definitely considering it because I like strong mugs and steel. Like it can take a beating. Like if you drop things, you don't want to drop the beautiful ones. You want something to be durable and last long. And I think this is definitely something that is durable. Stainless steel. So we encourage you to check the links below, take a look at it for yourself, see, if you're interested, definitely. And just to remind you, whenever you shop with our links, it also gives back to our site. Our Narrowcast, that's one way you can support our Narrowcast, and there's other ways. Silverback will tell you about that.
Yeah. If you wish to give us a donation, that donations are also welcome. And also a thumbs up. It's also another way to supporting us, helping us to push our messages further and wider. All right. We thank you, family,
Definitely.
for your support. We thank you for your time, for listening to the Narrowcast. Now let's just get back to the home base and get right down to the nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty, yes.
Yes. For some reason, whenever we are viewing the quotes, do you hear the background noise? Do you hear that?
No, not at all.
Oh, you didn't hear?
It's fine.
Oh, okay. It's just me then.
Not at all.
It's just me.
With your supersonic hearing.
Yes, I hear everything. That is true.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, this topic it's a pretty sensitive topic.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to always have heavy topics,
Mm-hmm.
um, but we don't want to be, how you say, killjoy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Mm-hmm.
necessary for the times that we are in, and
Mm-hmm.
due to the fact that our people are people who are always in harm's way, are in danger,
Mm-hmm.
so it's our responsibility to be our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper,
Mm-hmm.
our neighbor's keeper, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for us to be a people that have defense, or at least organize, we have to speak on one accord. We can't be a people that, everybody's it's on their own. We always seem to have someone who will either speak for us, or someone outside of our community speak for us, whether they do it directly or indirectly. But there's always a disruption. And this was always been in an agenda that was in place. Because if you look at other communities, they are collectively move in one accord, and those who disagreed, you never really get to hear them. You see what I'm saying? So that's also, for me, speaks volume, because I'm gonna give you an example. Remember when when our brother Kanye West was saying about the Ish people, right? When they were. Do you remember that, Jade? Do you remember?
Oh yes, I do. I do.
Okay,
But
so
mm-hmm.
I don't
What
wanna
happened?
be speaking off, but I'm saying, remember when he's saying that he know who he is. He's, what I'm saying. He was pretty much um
They said he pulled the racist card.
well,
They claimed
yeah.
he was being racist. Racist.
Well, he was being what's the term, anti-Semitic, right?
Anti-Semitic. Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that he's not possible because he's Jewish himself, right? That's the term that's the terminology, that's the word, to be Semitic
Mm-hmm.
is someone who is well, if you look at the definition, Semitic as far as language wise, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, but did you notice that you didn't hear any where they were all in one accord? Like they all were going
Mm-hmm.
after. He was going after. They were all going after him, but you didn't hear anyone counter to say, "Oh no, no, we agree with Kanye." You didn't hear
Mm-hmm.
any. You didn't hear no one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You understand what I'm saying, right? Basically.
What was really interesting about it is the fact that he made this very valid point. He said, "How is it possible that I could be anti-Semitic when everything, when it comes to music and movies and merchandising,
Mm-hmm,
is owned and run by the Jews, and everything that a lot of celebrities that all their contracts are enmeshed in Jewish run businesses. So it's like when you say you're anti anything, you're basically putting yourself in a position where you're unemployed because they get sponsored by the Jews through music, merchandising, movies, etc. And one comment made them all pull the plug. And he was like, but I wasn't, if you're doing business with them, you're not trying to be anti Semitic. You're basically breaking bread and saying, okay, I'm going to have a contract with you and we're going to do deals together.
mm-hmm.
So they didn't like one comment and they all ganged up on him, for a comment. But
Right.
yet, if the shoe was on the other foot,
Mm-hmm.
Black businesses don't really do things like that, you know. If you have a personal opinion, you have an opinion. Everybody in this country, we have the right to an opinion. But for some reason, when a celebrity opens their mouth, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we're gonna cancel your contract. You're not gonna be like, they're gonna try to devastate you completely for having your own opinion.
Yeah,
It's
but
just unremarkable.
yeah, the thing is, they collectively spoke, and also when they got on Kyrie Irving, did you hear any Jewish group that came or any Jewish person that says, "Well, no, I'm with Kyrie. I'm Jewish. I'm with Kyrie." Did you hear anyone?
No.
No, right? So basically, they were a collective. Okay, it was. They know this subconsciously, directly or indirectly. They know that, okay, if we are all going after this person, even if I disagree with my group collectively, they stayed quiet. Right? You didn't hear. So basically, they're on code. These people are extremely on code, and that goes for all the other groups. It goes with the Asian group. It goes with the with white folks, right? It goes with all the other groups. But it's only black folks, okay? We are the only people that we are the only people that we are so divided as individuals. And they would always use someone that looks like us to come up front and say, "Oh no, I disagree." You know, they'd always seem to always make us look foolish.
Well, I mean, but in terms of like having like crabs in a barrel mentality, I mean, they were trying to make a public spectacle out of him because it's like, okay, the good thing is that he's so rich that whatever money he lost didn't hurt him. I think trying to tarnish his image and making him look crazy is what they were after. And he's like, I don't need you. It's you who need me, because like how they have big deals with Adidas. He's like, I'm the one with Yeezy. Like, I don't need you. You need me. And it would be the same thing if Michael Jordan pulled that move, but he doesn't do that. But it's just when they want to make a point, they make it a point to trash him in the biggest way. And again, at the end of the day, look, he is a public figure. He is entitled to his opinion, but he's not trying to devastate them financially. They try to devastate him financially and his image. And now, of course, what he says, it's on him. Like, he's unfiltered like Trump. Like the two of them are so bold with what they think and say. I can understand there's like some intimidation. But at the end of the day, he's entitled to think and feel and say what he wants to say. But in terms of destroying his business, that's a different story. It's like they love him when he can make the money, but they hate him when he can speak his mind. And I think that's a devastating type of way of doing business, because it's like, intimidation. Like, oh, we're going to destroy you and your business because you hurt our feelings. And it became our feelings.
Well, I don't think it's
like, why don't you,
I don't think it's about our feeling. I think it's more about control.
Of course.
Negro, you out of hand, you out of control, and we've got to make an example out of you. But they would see, the thing is, they punish one of us in proxy to use them as an example for the collective. Okay, so basically, is that Willie Lynch letter coming back to me again?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We're gonna emasculate you in front of your people to let all of them know that, okay, if any of you Negroes get out of hand, you're gonna be punished. And then we as a people, we automatically become divided. We've got cowards who will be like, oh no, some of our people, oh no, I don't see that it's prejudice what they're doing to him. It's just that, if he's getting paid a lot of money, they give all the reasons, and I look and any other reason except that, okay, they're emasculating this person. They don't want to face the fact that this person is being emasculated in front of the whole world. All right.
Yeah.
So and then the problem is we don't respond collectively on the same page. This is
True.
the
True.
thing that drives me crazy most of the time. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give you another
Okay.
example. We can go to so many examples. I know I'm kind of
Yes,
like
but
go ahead, Jade.
jumping ahead. All right. Yeah, before we delve into that, let me just backtrack a little bit because remember today's theme is crabs in a barrel,
Crabs in a
and
barrel, yes.
everything you said is on point. But before we delve into the meat and the potatoes, let's
Okay.
give a basic general terminology, explanation of what this term means.
Okay.
Crab mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And here I am putting on my nerd glasses on. Okay, here we go. From from online, crab mentality is a crab theory where there's crabs in a bucket. What is
Mm-hmm.
this? This is a way of thinking best described as if I can't have it, neither can you. So this metaphor is derived from an anecdotal claim about behavior of crabs. Okay, so they're making a comparison about how crabs behave and also what comes out of human nature when there's things like jealousy, envy, some malice, some discord, basically all the negative things, the sins of nature, if you will. Okay, so what happens with the crabs? If anyone has ever cooked crabs, if you put in your spoon or a knife to like stir the pot, a crab is gonna latch on, and then you're trying to shake it off, and then all of the crabs start holding on to each other because they're thinking, okay, if this one escapes, I'm coming with you. Let me out, okay? But in that concept of crabs in a barrel, one is trying to escape, but the other is either trying to pull it down or pull themselves up. Whatever the case is they
Every
latch on,
it's pretty much every man for themselves.
every man for himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
one can't escape with the other one saying, I gotta have what you have. And of course, in their in all due in their defense, I mean, who wouldn't want to get out of a boiling pot? Seriously, you're gonna be dinner. So, but in this sense, the crab theory is about pulling someone down when you see them achieve success. When there's envy and jealousy and resentment to the point where someone in their resentment conspires or feels competitive enough to want to see the demise of others. So it's basically someone who is envious to the point where they are self-destructive. And if you guys, I know we did a Narrowcast earlier, and for those who got a chance to listen to it, it was intense for us to do. But even if you missed it, if you follow the Shanquilla Robinson case, that is the worst case scenario of envy,
Mm.
where envy arises out of the heart of so-called friends to the point where the jealousy overcame the so-called friend, plural friends, because there was a lot of people. There were 6 of them in Mexico. And Shanquilla, this young, talented entrepreneur, she had a hair business. She paid for the trip for her friends.
Mm.
All 6 of her friends, she paid for the trip. And in one day, they killed her. They were so envious of all the money this girl had. She not only paid for the trip, but she had $17,000 cash in her purse. She had money, like I'm talking, for millennials, they were living large. And she was not holding back. It was like one of those kick your feet up and let's, dine and eat meat together kind of friends. She was throwing down. But in the hearts of some of the people there, they couldn't stand her because they grew up together, they went to school together, and this girl was rising so fast that some couldn't stand to see that. And no matter what it is, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, the fact that you could get yourself to the point of, you know, killing a friend
out of pure jealousy. And if you follow the case, you're going to hear that they actually laughed after she died. I'm not even going to rehash the whole story, but all I could say is this: envy is a wicked, wicked, wicked sin if you do not get yourself under control. Because it's one thing for you to desire something and be in prayer about it. It's another to say you've worked really hard your whole life and you've achieved certain goals and you still have a ways to go. But it's another when you see someone, it could be someone in your family, it could be a cousin, it could be a coworker, to see someone who is very successful. And then you're like, oh, it's a different kind of spirit. This is from the devil, you guys. When you come around and you're like, so what makes you so special? Why are you so happy? And if you hear that kind of talk, know where it's coming from. Okay. So we're going to break down this crab mentality because we need to be aware of this, not only within ourselves, but within your community, because you have to watch who is in your company, because the ones that do not serve the Lord are capable of doing a lot more worse than just bringing you down emotionally. In Shanquilla's case, she had no idea that the people she paid for actually premeditated her murder. And this case is ongoing. It hasn't, been settled in court, but the physical evidence that exists indicates that it was envy and a whole lot of other stuff. So, but anyway, so let's continue. Do you want to add anything before we continue? I know I said a lot, right? I started with a definition, right? And then all of a sudden the glasses came off and, and I kicked back and I'm sorry guys.
I would add about Shanquilla that there is an invisible hand at play. Right? Because I know wickedness is foolish. There's foolishness in wickedness, because there's never there's no wisdom in wickedness, So I know that those kids weren't too bright. Okay, even if they were wicked, they weren't too bright. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go down there and kill the girl, and then what? You don't think you're gonna be found out? I mean, it is so foolish. But when you're wicked, I believe when you're wicked, you're nearsighted. You don't have your vision is nearsighted. You cannot see further than what you want to do. So yeah, it's sad. But my interpretation of crabs in a barrel is slightly different, Jade.
Tell me.
Okay? Because this crab in a barrel, when you are a crab in a barrel, there is no system in place. So therefore, people are going to behave as individuals. You understand? Our people, whether in North America or in a continent, we've been beaten to not to think collectively, rather individually. Because each and every time there is a situation where we should rise up as a collective, we always seem to have a lot of Judases, coons. There's layers of these entities. Okay? These people who are coward, they're coward. There's always a perpetrator within the group that's going to go against the group. Okay? It further tells me that because there we don't have a system. And when I say a system, when we have a system, there's got to be a way to punish those in our midst who go out of line. Okay? When you go to the Chinese community, when one of their people are out of control, they deal with that person. Okay? They have a system in place that's going to deal with those people. Those people are going to be dealt with. Okay? When you betray your people, there's got to be a way to punish these cowards.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who go missing in China, that's for sure. You speak against against a leader, people go missing. I mean, look at what happened with COVID. Like the doctors couldn't even speak about the virus.
Yes,
Terminated.
That's the way a house is supposed to be operate. They are supposed to operate. People
How they do it.
People who don't belong in the house should not come into your house and dictate. Okay? We as a people, black people, we as a people, especially here in North America, the people that are giving you quote unquote law are the lawbreakers. So why do you trust these people? You see what I'm saying? So basically, Jade, what's happening is this. These people have always known that we are the children of the law. We're the children, as they would say, the people of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In history, they have them calling us as the people of the book. So they know that we are a people that abide by certain principles, certain morals. Okay? When you listen to King Leopold's letter, he was telling them, don't teach them about God. They already know who God is. Right? They know who the one who's called Zombie. Mm-hmm. He was telling them, don't worry about them because they already know these things. He says, teach them now, and this is evidence. Teach them that you will not inherit the kingdom of God. That mm-hmm. you understand? So that's mm-hmm. evidence. That's evidence to say that okay, they did tamper with the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that it's hard to enter the kingdom of God. You know, so basically, what these people, they have always known that we are a people of righteousness. But they needed to what? Corrupt us. Mm-hmm. Fragment our standards. Mm-hmm. Right? So this way we can be divided. Mm-hmm. They divided the house. Mm-hmm. You know, but us
like that scripture that says, "A house divided amongst itself will fall."
Cannot stand. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They cannot stand.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You know,
and so whereas you would have a tribe is a community. The mm-hmm. tribe is supposed to work together, like in its dynamics. There's a provider. Like I don't want to bring it to the fact that like we're farmers or anything like that, but as a community, we all have played different roles. Mm-hmm. And collectively as a group, we meet each other's needs. In this country, we're so divided. Households are divided. Financially, we're fragmented because it's like, okay, you have income, but look at the everything is so expensive. It's like you don't have to give within your own community. You can't even donate. You can donate time. You can, be encouraging with your words, but they have us living hand to mouth here where you earn, but you never earn enough. And so our community kind of suffocates, like putting the crabs in a barrel where there's so much pressure going on in that pot where if you don't serve the Lord and envy, it's like, oh, where are you going? Are you, like you think you're going somewhere? Like that envious spirit can be self-destructive, and that atmosphere was cultivated, like you had mentioned with the Willie Lynch letter, about how to treat the slaves so that eventually they will start mistreating each other. And
Mm-hmm.
so that system is in place. It's somewhat veiled in our eyes if we don't know the letter. We just experience the negative stuff that happens in our society. But if we don't look at that letter and say, wait a minute, this is planned. Our demise, our destruction, our our situation, our negative situation is structured planning for us to be suppressed and depressed. That we're not just, unlucky. We're not just, undereducated. Look, I have college degrees and I still can endure the same kind of suffering from those who don't. Not the same type of discrimination, but in the sense, I have to be careful with the word discrimination. We all are discriminated against, but in terms of like when you get the job, we face the same fate. It's you versus them, the haves and the have-nots, the white versus the black. And you never intended on all of that. You just wanted to pay your bills. You're not there to try to prove that my race is better than your race. It's just the culture dynamics is a mess. And no matter who gets paid what, there's always this, I gotta be on top and you must remain in your place, like what you had mentioned, Silverback, about the suppression, stay in your place. You need to, Black person, stay in your place. Kanye, you need to keep your mouth shut and do what we say. And so that's like that kind of more of that lynching going on. But then what happens to us as a community? We're supposed to edify and educate ourselves and work collectively. But if our moral compass is off, if we lose sight of the Lord, if we don't have our values in place, then that kind of breakdown within us has us hurting ourselves. It's like they already got in your mind, and envy and discord and jealousy or bitterness is in your heart. And then where do you go with that? And we have to be mindful of that, because that's like that crazy point where, like Shanquilla, where her so-called schoolmate friend that they grew up with as children, was bold enough to take a vase and beat the child's head until her neck broke. Like, what is that? Look, be mature and be like, okay, well, get your own act together. Like the woman has her act together. What's your problem? Like, why don't you ask her how she did what she did? Maybe she'll be nice enough to show you how to get started. But instead, envy and jealousy, consume this woman, And so, yes, the Willie Lynch letter does, it has an impact in our society, but we have to recognize what that mentality brings about if we're not aware of what we're actually doing to ourselves, what we are actually doing. Yes, society has is wicked ways, but there's a personal responsibility that we have to maintain within our community, and it's time to clean up. We have to look at ourselves and say, look, I have some things I need to get together, but I have to get it together because I can't be doing this to my family. I can't do this to my friends. And if you are a friend at all,
Yeah. I I I want to there were laws during I think the laws were called slave codes, either slave codes or yeah, it has to be slave codes where they had this law I think was called Meritorious Manumission. I think I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but it's spoken by Dr. What's his name again? Um, well, there were these laws where they were, if you told, if another slave was doing something illegal, if they were doing something out of hand, that was not, they were plotting to kill the master, or they were, if they were planning to run away, whatever it was, it was law that the slave would tell on the other. You understand? It was law that one slave would tell on the other. The treachery that in our community goes far. It goes it goes up to, it's centuries. These are habits that were laws. Okay, they're still in their legal books, in the law book, in the books. You know what I'm saying? These laws were not deleted. They never removed these laws. You understand? So in our community, when we talk about crabs in a barrel, we're talking about a system that was in place that was divisive. It was legal, that you would go and you could tell on your brother, and then you will be rewarded freedom. You'll be given freedom to tell on your brother. You understand? So whenever our people go into these debates about, snitching, this, that, and that, these sensitive issues in our community, when they talk about those things, they're not going deeper enough.
Yeah.
We're not going
You see it a lot.
deep.
You see it a lot in politics, but also to the beginning of the slave trade. It took a few people who wanted power and money and whatever the slave traders bribed them for to hand over their people. So it's like they're completely disconnected from community. It's like they sold their people out. There are
Yes.
sellouts, and even some people to a certain degree. I know you're going to get into it later, but like what's happening now with the vice president going over to Africa. It's like, Black people often hold positions in corporations, and then all of a sudden we're being moved around like pawns, like a chess piece, saying, I'm going to hire a Black, and the Black is going to do this. And this is how I felt about Barack Obama, by the way. I honestly felt sometimes we have these major catastrophic things happen in America, and then the next person that gets hired for position is a Black person. Like, it's no mistake that we had him in the time that we did, because this is right after Bush Jr. with 9/11. Then all of a sudden it's like, how are we going to make peace with the Middle East right now? Let's get a Black president in there.
Yeah.
Family, this is my personal opinion, but it's like, to kind of calm things down a bit, see a person of color in there, just a little bit more color. He's like half white, half Black. I don't know, but that's just my opinion. But in terms of politics, you'll see certain people taking the stance, and maybe initially when they took the position, they had some goals in mind, but with time, you're like, I don't really see you do anything for our community. And then with time, they also start behaving and yes sir, no sirring all over the place, and they're just in cahoots. There's no difference. They're not helping the community. It's like, whose side are you on now? I thought you were here to make a difference in your community. Now you're doing inside trading, and you're
involved in things that really are hurting the community. It's like you forgot about where you came from. And we do see it a lot in politics, not just in America. You know, I'm sure people like Severin, there's not just okay, like even in Haiti, if we think about Haiti and on how much they have so much political strife there, we see it there, we see it in the Congo, we see it in Nigeria, where there's a lot of unrest, and then people who rise up in power and cheat the people, you know?
Mm.
So it's like we forget, if you have power and influence, you really should be helping and edifying your community. You shouldn't be there to hoard the money and wealth for yourself and let your people suffer. Like,
Yeah.
what is that all about?
Yeah. See, another form of treachery is this. And again, we're still talking about crabs in a barrel. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Another form of treachery is just take a look at the schools on the continent. They're still
Mm-hmm.
teaching these lies that the Europeans. So these people left, right? The colonial quote unquote masters left, and you're still teaching your children the same lie. Okay? The same lies, they're still teaching them that. Common sense would be okay, these people have left. Let's go back to the way our ancestors were. Because obviously our civilization was interrupted. Okay? So common sense would be, let's go back to the ways of our ancestors. At least let's explore what was happening when we were interrupted by these invaders.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you look at the school systems, they're still teaching the same lie. It just doesn't make it. It infuriates me. It's like they're still teaching the same lies, and our people are not holding these political figures accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you would think that there's scholars who would go ahead and say, "Listen, we've had scholars who did research. Okay, let's go back let's look into those research that they have done."
Mm-hmm.
But they continue, and I know this is happening because of the church that's still on the continent that keep reinforcing these lies.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in terms of treachery with the schools, I'm gonna give a visual. If the crabs are trying to crawl out, what do? You put the lid on, right?
Mm.
The crabs can't lift the lid. They're just clambering to get out. So the school system, not only are the kids overwhelmed, like you can throw tons of homework at them, but there's a point where how they're systematically not only brainwashing the kids, they're also, we're going to save this for another segment. Not only the kids brainwashed, but there's a lack of history. There's a lack of understanding of history. So you whitewash their minds because they don't know their history. History is taken out. There is no history. What there is political activism. Let's save the earth. Let's talk about global warming. Let's talk about LGBTQ rights. Let's talk about whatever. It's all about activism. We used to, and they barely got that straight, that we used to have Black History Month, but Black History Month has been narrowed down to a color page of, no lie, a coloring page of Dr. Martin Luther King's face, maybe Tubman, maybe Ruby D, or maybe what's the other one? Rosa Parks, right? Just those, and maybe occasionally someone in entertainment, like Oprah or something like that, and that's it. There's no real discussion about slavery and where it originated from and who did it and why and what. It's like our life, our existence began after slavery here in the US. Like we didn't exist, we didn't come from anywhere. We just happened to just be born here to be slaves. Like that's our history, right? And the kids don't know better because they haven't been taught right. And so this crabs in a barrel mentality is not only is it suppressive, but it's in a way that it's like if you ask questions, if you want to know more, if you want to excel, there's this also sheepish mentality where it's like keep in your place, don't ask me too many questions, stay on topic, you need to follow instructions, authoritative dictative type of approach to suppress mental growth. I can go on. I won't even talk about, I have a friend who works in a library. We could talk about just the libraries. What books can you find in your neighborhood? The discrimination is so strategic that you got to fight to know the truth. You have to fight to go beyond doing a multiple choice question. It's like, what do you mean there's no other answer outside of A, B, C, or D? There are other truths out there, but you got to look for the truth. And in terms of suppression, let me bring it back to what crab mentality is. It's like there's this stay in your place. You have to stay in your pot. And for us to know the truth, we have to break free, but we also need to educate others. We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to know the truth and help one another, because the absence of that is ignorance and death. Because what we're experiencing is not a phenomenon of it's just bad luck to be born black. It's not even about luck. There's evil here. We are so aware of it. But if we just sit there and be complacent and be like, well, I guess this is the hand that God served me and this is my fate. No, you can educate yourself. You can look to operate differently. And yes, it's important for you to know who you are, know where you came from, and know your self-worth. And it also is important for us to look for the answers. Look, to be honest with you, I was born here in America. I still have a heck of a lot to learn about my own and ancestry, my own family from Africa. I have a lot of family, but because unfortunately, crab mentality, some people, when they travel around the world and they settle, like let's say, I don't want to, in case any family member listens to me, yes, this is what I have to say. You've left the country, you go to England, you go to Canada, you've established yourself, and then you don't give back to your family. You don't give back to your own flesh and blood. When you say hello to them, I'm fine. Okay, so if someone isn't fine, where does that family member say, oh sister, oh brother, oh cousin, don't worry, I've been there. Let me show you how to overcome. But instead of elevating you and educating you, what do? Crab mentality. Oh, what is wrong with you? You should have been a doctor. You should have been a this. You should have had this. It's chastisement. It's degradation. It's insult. It's oh, you must be cursed. Oh, what's wrong with you? And then of course you'll hear other colorful words like, are you stupid? Like, and you don't want to hear that. But of course, is that educating? Is that relating in such a way that you can say, let me take you under my wing and let me show you how I got what I got? No, there's a pride and an ego saying, look at me, look at my esteem, look at my house, look at my wife, look at my car, and you parade. And then you say, oh, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
As if. And so there, it's not, you're not helping someone out. You're actually mocking them. And then if you should try, then they knock you down. Oh, you could have been better. You could have done that better. Okay, so somehow when it comes to family, it can be very poisonous if you have the haves and have-nots within your own family, especially if the arrogance and ego has gotten to the point where you act like we're so below you, as if, oh, and you'll know who they are. Unfortunately, they're the types that'll be probably one or two blocks in the whole corporation or a hospital or whatever, their firm or whatever. And then, oh, because you're rich like your white counterparts, now you're one of them, right? You've forgotten your family, and you're going to make heirs as if you've arrived, as if everybody is poor and starving in Africa, and I'm not trying to be jealous or anything, but when ego gets to the point where you don't help your fellow man and brother and sister, of course everybody's responsible for helping themselves, but learn how to maintain the family dynamics of love and unity and community. Education, we can help one another, as opposed to saying, oh, I wish you could do better. Okay, well, we have to foster that environment where we say, you know what, I believe in you. I know what it is to struggle. Like, I love the stories that my grandmother gave me from the West Indies. It's like how those old stories of the people who lived on the land, they raised the chickens, the cows, the pigs, and the horses, and they didn't have a job, but the community all ate. They all ate. Everyone worked together, and there was nothing that they ever needed. Even, as a matter of fact, my grandfather, he was a tailor. He made clothes. So it's like, wow, they were self-sufficient. This community helped one another. But somehow, when we're in our society, it's like every man for himself. Oh, you don't have, oh, too bad. Or I'm sorry you're going through hard times. Okay, I understand that. But you know what? There is a way for us to inspire ourselves. There is a way to encourage each other. And then there are some solutions that you need to say, look, I know of some resources that you can tap into, or I could recommend you to work with somebody. There are ways that we can help each other, like network, like really network. I'm not just saying good luck. No, I mean network. Learn a trade together. There's so many ways that we can help one another, but unfortunately, envy and greed and jealousy is something that could reside in people's hearts and can get the worst of you if you don't keep it in check. But if you maintain the family dynamic of saying, you know what, I see that you're going through hardships. There are some things and some ways I want to suggest to you, and you can look into it if you're interested. Or I may not have the answers, but I think you would click with someone else, and I can put you in connection with them. Network. There are ways that we can overcome this way of the systematic lynching approach, where we hold each other down, or you have, and you're not going to let others know how to overcome. Especially if you have, and you see that you might have a family member that's going through a conundrum. They're just they're in a rut and they need some direction. Like, okay, you're the one who's an overcomer and achiever and successful. Educate. Why hold that to yourself? But there are different perspectives here that we're sharing. Silverback talked about political suppression, and we also talked about how within the community there's a divisiveness. The Willie Lynch letter has affected our community in such a way that we hurt each other. And then I'm sharing about, on a local level, how family members and people that that have achieved their success gloat and boast about it in such a way that they feel like they've arrived, and they don't help their fellow man, their brother, sister, cousin, or whatever. They could do better and choose not to, So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna read you a very short article here. And again, I looked up. It's important that we understand. We're talking about it's treachery. It's really, we say crabs in a barrel just to lighten up things, but really it's treachery within the family, within the Bantu. Okay, we as Black people, it's treachery within our community. That's what we have. We have treachery that takes place in our communities, and it was designed that way. Okay, it's very important for us to understand that it was purposely programmed within our communities. So I'm going to give you what I was pronouncing it incorrectly, but it's called Meritorious Manumission. Okay, Meritorious Manumission. Our elder, Dr. I keep forgetting his name, Claude Anderson. Okay, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this, and he says, and this is a law he talks about. This is what they were doing in our communities. This is where I learned it from, Dr. Claude Anderson. Okay, so this little article here is from the. I'm gonna leave a link in the description so that you guys can also find it. Okay, you can go ahead and read it, and you can do a little research on your own as well. Okay, what is Meritorious Manumission Act of 1710? How America developed a culture of snitching and pro-establishment Negro leadership. Okay, so that's the title. What is the Meritorious Manumission Act of 1710? How America developed a culture of snitching and pro-establishment Negro leadership. This is written by Ann Brown, December 14, 2021. The concept of Uncle Tom didn't just crop up out of thin air. Some point to the Meritorious Manumission Act, a law passed in Virginia back in the 1700s as the propellant that spurred Black people to snitch on one another to get into the good graces of white people. Under the law, slaves could earn their freedom by performing good deeds that impressed their slave owners. Some Black activists say this law not only caused Black people to turn on one another, but ultimately resulted in the creation of Black politicians who played along with the establishment instead of disrupting it. You hear that, Jade? I'm going to stop there for a second. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I do.
That's crazy, right? So some sources note that the law was passed in 1710, while other documents about the history of the government of Virginia say it was passed in 1782. Manumission is the formal process by which a slave owner can give his slaves their legal freedom. Slave owners used the promise of manumission to ensure their slaves' obedience and often rewarded faithful servitude with manumission. According to encyclopedia.com, the U.S. was not the only slave society to use manumission. It has been used throughout history in regions of the world that held slaves. New York Assemblyman Charles Barron wrote in New York Amsterdam News on December 3rd, 2020, that the Meritorious Manumission Act developed a culture of snitching and pro-establishment Negro leadership. Barron has been a community activist for more than 49 years and has represented the 60th District of New York Assembly since 2015. The Meritorious Manumission Act was the legal act of freeing an enslaved African for good deeds, as defined by the national public policy. Freedom could be granted to an enslaved African who saved the life of a white racist colonial enslaver, or his property invented something from which a white racist colonial enslaver could make a profit, or snitch on a fellow enslaved African who was planning a rebellion or running away.
Speaking of planning a rebellion, you know, going back to the education system, you know, the so-called the fight over the curricula is a heated debate where even some teachers have been thrown in jail if they should go against, you know, planning a curricula to teach the truth about Black history. They don't want the teachers to teach the truth. They can get in trouble. They could get fired for speaking the truth.
Yeah.
You know?
So let me finish this.
Sure.
Barron wrote in the New York Amsterdam News, referring to historic papers from the Virginia's General Assembly, Encyclopedia Virginia defines the Meritorious Manumission Act as being enacted by the General Assembly in May 1782. It allowed slaveholders to manumit their slaves at will without government approval. The law also mandates that anyone manumitting their slaves shall provide support for those over or under a certain age, and that slaves pay the taxes and levies required by the state. You see what's happening, right?
If you can put it in lay terms, because it's a little confusing to me.
Yeah. So basically, what they were doing is when they allow you to, when they freed you, you now took the burden of paying taxes.
Oh.
Okay. So
because you're free.
Yeah, so it's like, say for example, you were a property, you were a product. You know, when you a product, when you buy a product, you pay taxes, right, on your product.
Yeah.
So instead of the slave owner paying taxes on that person, because they free you now, so now they're taking on the burden of this of the slave master, right? The act encouraged enslaved Africans to gain their personal freedom by keeping their masters informed on fellow enslaved Africans who were planning and executing revolts and rebellions. This behavior...
So that basically is a paid snitch.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is. This is the church. This is what was taught to us, as our people. This behavior has trickled down to the modern day and persists today. Barron wrote, "We still have some Meritorious Manumission Black leaders running around here today who prioritize their personal ambition and ragged individualism over the liberation of the masses of our people from colonial capitalism. And it is byproduct called poverty." Okay, and its excuse me, and its byproduct called poverty. Okay, even civil rights leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called out these so-called black leaders. King labeled them manufactured leaders created by the white power structure in order to maintain control over the black vote, politics, economics, and social movement in the black community. Barron wrote, the manumission mindset is so ingrained in black culture that some experts say slave behavior would not disappear.
Yeah, that's why it's important for us to be aware of this, because I know that individually, I know what I suffer with, what trials I face, but collectively as a group, it's very dangerous when we hurt ourselves. Like, look, we already have a lot on our plate in terms of dealing with health issues, financial stress, social issues, like whether you have a tight-knit family or not, or maybe your relationship with your friends have seemed to have dissipated over the years because everyone is individually going through things and kind of buffering like I'm okay statements, but no one is really confiding in one another and saying, I know what you're going through. I'm going through it myself. Like take down that wall and say, look, we're struggling, but let's work together. Let's help one another. Let's look for solutions. Let's encourage one another, and but I think there is a way for us to chip away from that lynch mentality, but it's only if we are humble enough, b are willing to help one another. You have to extend yourself, but also to educate yourself, because being in an isolated bubble makes you just be selfish. Look, we all are not going to be the president of the United States. We all are not millionaires, but there's a lot of wisdom that we can learn and share and educate one another with. It's like, okay, you learn a new trade, share the trade. If you know business and someone's struggling to start a business, educate them. Because let me tell you, going to college and getting a college degree doesn't mean you necessarily know how to do it. Sometimes it takes those who have years experience to say, oh, that's book knowledge. Let me show you what it's really like. And some lived experience helps, And thank you so much for sharing that Mauritania's letter. I can't even pronounce the second half, and I'm glad you're gonna share that link so that people can reread it.
Yeah.
But I want to share some simple breakdowns to identify things on a local level, because we can acknowledge what is happening in the government. We can acknowledge some of the systematic approaches to suppressing our people, but let's recognize it within ourselves, because honestly, we have to help each other. We have to educate ourselves. So I'm going to break it down to like some simpler bite-sized information so that we can kind of look at, okay, how do we recognize crab mentality? Here are several examples. Okay, let's talk about, and these are some little stories, little scenarios. Let's say you're in school, right? What often happens to some of the bright students, the ones that are like 98, those who have 98 grade point averages, the one or 98 or 100, they get 100 on exams, and you're like, people look to them as like, oh, you're really smart. You're when you see them with a winning streak, every time they get spelling quizzes, 100, math, 98.5. It's like that's their average, that's their GPA. They're just on a winning streak consistently. So what happens? Those kids are labeled nerds. Those kids are often bullied. Those kids are often looked at as like they're just not socially connected like that, like you or maybe your friends. They're like the outsiders, right?
Socially inept.
Socially inept, right? So sometimes people dog them for being an achiever. Now, get this. Let's say that person who was achieving those high scores was a black man.
Yeah.
Now, think about the boys in your community right now. What do you think is going to happen to that black boy who is getting the hundreds from the peers? It's a lot worse than calling him a nerd. Okay, there has been stories where they would have said that the person was gay. There would be stories where they would get beat up. They would be physically beat up. And then there are cases of murder. You know, before they even make it to college, let's say they were athletic and smart. Like put those two together. It's like you see them on the rise, and all of a sudden it's like, where do you think you're going? Whereas the other kids who are not studying as hard are failing. Jealousy. You can Google it yourself. You'll find some cases of young black boys before they even made it to college, didn't even survive because of the deep-rooted, like, oh, where do you think you're going mentality.
Yeah.
Now, of course, they could excel if they wanted to, but they don't like to see a young black boy smart.
Yeah.
You know, and what are they doing? They're just studying. They have personal goals. But the persecution can be so intense, boys attacking other boys out of jealousy.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's the environment, it's this environment that dictates these type of behaviors. Because if it was, if it was an all, it's also class too, right? Because
Yes,
if it's an all black elite, like high um, um, wealthy environment, then the kids wouldn't be, it'd be a little bit more competitive as far as education, because that's what the parents are. The parents are competitive. It's like if you have competitive parents, you live in a wealthy neighborhood, yes, then then the mentality is, okay, good, you're competing, and the kids will be competing academically, sports wise as well. Everything can be, it'll be competitive across the board. But if it's in a poor environment, and kids will make fun of you if you stand out, if you intellectually, if you're smart, you're gonna stand out.
Exactly.
You're gonna stand out. So it's a climate. I grew up in the hood, and my older brother's brilliant. We have brilliant brilliant brothers and sisters. So it just takes a black sheep like me to keep things in check. So you're always gonna. It just depends. You could be in a neighborhood where rough around the edge. Everybody, everybody's. Parents are trying to make a living. The kids are left to their own devices. So there's gonna be problems. They're gonna go and join the wrong groups, meet the wrong people. Join gangs, pick up habits that you didn't teach them at home. Because the parents are busy, the kids are left to their own devices. So these are the things that in inner cities, not inner city kids, black kids have to face day to day. You are in a city, and you are most likely in a ghetto. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
in cities is where they put our ghettos, so they can monitor us. There's police always around us, so it's a stressful environment. Right? It's not pleasant.
Yeah.
When we were in rural areas, when we were living in rural areas, they made it hard for us. So either way, you have it hard. They're still monitoring us. So
Yeah.
these slave codes is what created the police force. You see, the police force came around the same time when their slaves were starting to gain the freedom. That's when they created the slave codes.
Mm.
Okay. So this system we're in is a manufactured system. It's not a natural state. It's demonic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So these people, they gotta give it to them, man. Some of our people don't see it.
No.
Some of us people don't see
Yeah.
it at all.
Yeah. So here are a few others, because I know we've run over. We're like
Mm-hmm.
a little an hour and almost a half into
Mm-hmm.
it. So I'm just going to run off a few more
Uh-huh.
examples, things to look out for. When it comes to finances, there are family members that pay off their bills and they're about to be debt free, and then others might be in your family saying, "Oh, why are you wasting your money? Like, why are you giving it away? Like, I know this sounds like a ridiculous argument. I personally haven't had this experience. Like, I wouldn't criticize anyone for paying off their bills. But, there are people who within family could be jealous of others because they have it. They have the money to pay off debts. And then others are completely in the hole with with debt and drowning, and they kind of, are scoffing at those who have. Instead of managing money, learning how to manage it, you're criticizing others who have and can manage it. Other ways, have you ever been uh, that person that decided to set a goal to lose weight? How about physical health? Women, I'm going to talk to you right now. Have you ever been on a diet and started losing weight? And then all of a sudden, your best friend or someone comes around and say, "Oh, you look different. Something's different about you. What have you been doing? Like, are you on a diet?" This happens all the time. I am speaking from experience. Look, I'm not a runway model. I never will intend to ever be a size zero, ever. And let me tell you, losing 5, 10 pounds is a big deal. When you start to change around people, people take notice, and it's not always positive things that are being said to you. So what happens, women? "Oh, what are you doing? Are you okay? Are you sick? Is something wrong?" "No, I just want to, eat healthier. The pandemic, we put on some pounds. So what happens? It becomes curiosity, then it becomes fear, then it becomes envy, then it becomes sabotage. How is it sabotage? Okay, you are on a goal to lose weight. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're being invited to dinner. "Come, you have to come. I'm having a dinner, or I'll save you a plate." Watch the serving size after they've complimented you. I'm going to put compliment in quotes, complimented you on your weight loss. "Oh, eat, eat, eat. Oh, it's no big deal. Look at the pounds of rice you just put on my plate." What are you trying to do? Sabotage. Okay? Crab mentality. Sometimes when you have a goal, instead of encouraging you, "Hey, I must lose weight too. Let's go for a walk. Let's go jogging. Let's exchange menus," right? Instead of that, there comes a, "Oh no, you look fine the way you are. Stay the way you are." Instead of encouraging people to get healthy, they're discouraging you from changing. So sometimes, women, you have people around you that are not encouraging you to be your healthiest. They are envious if you start looking nice, right? You're starting to take care of yourself. And then what happens? Because they don't want to change, they don't want you to change. So crab mentality is, and
Men, I don't know if men do this to each other, but I know this is
Yeah,
notorious.
man, do the
This is
same thing.
notorious for women. Huh?
That's just human nature, you know. Again, it's the mind, it's a society, it's a system in place. You know, it's what you're doing. When you don't feel good about yourself, and then you have someone who's doing well, you know, I can't say it's natural. It's not natural, you know. But the environment dictates this type of behavior.
Yes.
You know, I've always said that poverty is a sin. You understand? Because the Father gave us dominion over the world. He gave us dominion to be able to have agency as individuals on this planet. But then you have these parasitic entities who comes along, and they oppress you, and they keep resources from you. Because at the end of the day, the only thing on this planet that you can truly enjoy is the physical, is nature, is the physical things, right? The physical things that we have, whether it's tree, what, you know what I'm saying, is nature. We get to enjoy, we were given nature to enjoy. Okay, and all the and all the resources that came along with it. Then you have these entities who hoard the resources of the planet, as if they're gonna come to an end when then is never depleted. It's never depleted. We still have water. We still have all the resources on the planet. Every resources. I mean, it's like it's just these parasitic entities are oppressive. They want to have control of everything, and you included, right?
Yes.
So the problem is that we project their insecurities on ourselves.
That's right.
Okay, we're projecting. They come from a scarce environment. Those caves in the Caucasus Mountains where there's nothing. Then they go around the world hoarding everything. Okay, because they came from a place where everything was scarce. So they are impregnating everybody on the planet with their scarcity mind. Okay, so you know we kind of touching two different things, Jade, and which is okay. You know, you're going deep into the family nucleus, and I'm looking at it from a societal perspective. You know, we should call these topics should be crab mentality, meritorious manumission. Okay,
That's a mouthful.
yeah,
It's a mouthful.
yeah, you know, because that's what it is. Because that's what it is. They our families are infected with these disease where you feel as if you need to be and you have to be an individual at the expense of the collective, right? Meaning,
where individualism is discouraged too. You know.
Yeah,
individual is discouraged too.
But they have set it in place where you're going to be an individual at the expense of the collective, meaning you don't care. Okay, you don't care that you're selling your brothers off. So we have to punish these people. This type of peaches, this type of okay. Let me give you another example. These type of people have to be punished, and we have to call it out too, us as a people. Okay. Now, right here in America, we have this reparation debate that's taking place right now. Okay? Now, you have our brothers and sisters all over the world, whether it's in the West Indies or in the continent or in Europe. These people are using these people around to deflect. So basically, what do I mean? Our West Indian brothers and sisters should have nothing to do with what the African Americans are trying to do. They're trying to get their reparations. The West Indians, if you're West Indian, you should just shut your mouth and not say anything about reparations. If you want reparations, go back to the West Indies and then go to England and have them pay you reparations. If you're an African, shut your mouth, go back to the continent and speak to the colonial masters to pay your reparations. Don't have anything to talk about, anything to do with the African Americans' reparation. And if the way the African Americans want to define it, let them define who gets to get that reparation. If you're a foreigner like myself, you don't get to speak. If you are a mixed child, you don't get to speak. The brothers and sisters whose ancestors suffered right here, they are, of course, obviously they are my ancestors as well, right? But those who went through, those whose direct ancestors went through the transatlantic slave trade, who suffered, and their children's children, which is their great-great-great-grandparents, okay, that were right here in Americas. If they say that you need to go get your quote unquote what you call your DNA test, whatever you call it, okay, however they define it, that's the way it's going to be. The problem is that we have treacherous Negroes. Again, if you're in the West Indies, and you just came up here in this country, don't get into the business. Okay? Don't get in the debate. Let the brothers get their reparations. If anything, once they get their money, it's going to trickle down. This is where we have to learn to work with one another. I hate treacherous Negroes. And this is what we have in this country. They will use these officials whose parents are not the people who were enslaved here in Americas. This is what they do. They create a buffer class of people to come and disrupt. My Spanish brothers and sisters, you people migrated over here. You don't get to speak. The African Americans are going to say what they want as far as reparations, and they're going to get reparations. That's the problem that I have.
It's understood. It's understood. It's understood. But I think in order for people to sort that out, they need to understand history too, because, you know, again, like I was born here, and I can tell you the truth. Some schools teach a little bit more extensive, detailed history than others. And depending on who is your parent, if they care to share that information with you, you will learn it. If not, you will learn it in time. And people don't have a political mindset. If you were blessed enough to have spiritual parents, you can understand and have a moral compass. But in terms of history, not everyone understands history right. You know, just like being raised here, I can easily argue, you know, the way I was treated by African Americans, and I'm African American, like literally African and American. But, you know, within, we're digressing, family, I'm so sorry. But some African Americans will come up to me and say, "Oh, you're different." Yes, I am different. "Oh, you're not like us." No, I'm not exactly like you, because these are African Americans that have family from the South, and there's a whole culture there that I'm not keen to. Doesn't mean they don't derive from us from Africa, but there's a way of 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 the way they live and eat and operate. Like I'm just not, I never really clicked with them. But then they hated on me and never accepted me as a sister, meaning, you may be a little bit different than me, but we can still be friends. No, it's you're different because I'm Caribbean African. So then there's a hatred. There's this envy. Oh, your hair is different. Oh, you look different. You of course, my demeanor is different. And it's like, from the reason why I'm sharing this is because the crab mentality in terms of lynching, like you're going to start looking at me as it goes beyond, yeah, we may have the same shade of skin, but now you're going to hate me because my ancestors came directly from Africa. They didn't go through the slave trade. Like I don't have the slave trade in my family as far as I know. Okay, maybe on my Jamaican side, but in terms of my African side, no, we didn't have that. And
Jade,
but
Jade,
yes,
colonialism was slavery as well. They just called it.
okay,
They just called us colonialism just to to deflect, to
okay,
confuse. But it was the same thing. It wasn't as extreme as here in Americas. Okay, even
hmm,
put it this way: even the slaves that went to the Caribbeans, their oppression was not like the way in America.
not as,
Okay,
yeah,
it wasn't as
not the
intense
same.
as America. They had slavery there as well,
Hmm.
but those posts was where the colonial masters went there to enjoy. Okay, the slaves in the Caribbeans, they didn't have it. They didn't have it like they were in America here.
Hmm.
Okay, so but go ahead.
But nonetheless, my point is, okay, we I I can't put myself in someone else's shoes, but I do understand that we as a people have different obstacles to overcome. Collectively, we have a lot to still overcome, but
Hmm.
we shouldn't further divide ourselves to the point where we can't help ourselves. We should be able to say, look, that happened in the past. It did happen in the past. There are many things that are still in place today that still affect our community. However, despite the horrors that our ancestors endured, and the horrors that still exist today, my family dynamics is going to be this. We should be helping one another.
Hmm.
Why is it? And okay, let's use this Narrowcast as an example, right? We're so used to giving our money to corporations and businesses that we're comfortable with. Everybody shops on Amazon. Everybody uses Google. Everybody, knows to shop at big department stores, right? But then what happens to the local community shops, the mom and pop shops, the people who have worked their way to get to where they are? Do you go back to your own community and help your community? We have a choice where we can build each other up, but where you put your dollar says a lot, right? When you started this Narrowcast, mind you, you might have family members saying, "Oh, what are you doing with your time now?" You
Jade,
know,
Jade, our community has a funnel. Okay, we funnel our money out of our communities through the church.
mhm.
The church is the most diabolical entity in the black communities. It's crazy. The church funnels the money. No one asks where does the money goes, which bank. I mean, these banks take our monies. Okay, and it's purposely done. They don't tax those organizations for a reason. Our people need to wake up. Okay, that's another topic in all by itself. I'm gonna break it down for our people, and if people don't understand what a church is it's diabolical the way the system is put in place. People was walking around asleep, not questioning.
Yeah, well, my point is the practical. What can you do today to help build your community? Okay. So if someone has a goal or an idea of starting their own business, instead of saying, why don't you get a real job? Okay, not everybody's cut out for 9 to 5. You might have a burning desire to be the CEO of your own company, but you're not surrounded by people who will encourage you to make those goals. You have to start somewhere. I mean, a lot of the inventions that we use today started off, with an idea, a concept. It's written on paper. There's like products that are built. There's testing that's involved. There's failures. There's a process before the product is in your home. Same concept. If you're going to start a business, you have to start somewhere. But if someone's going to chop your tree at the root and say, I don't think you can do it, that's the crab mentality where you're just saying, be a slave. We're all slaves. We're all doing it. Get your 9 to 5. So what happens to your ambition? What happens to your goals? Do you just suppress them and just say, well, nobody else in my family is an overachiever? Why should I be the one to think outside of the box? We should not curse those or discourage people from being ambitious. Of course, having a plan is important, but nonetheless, everyone should be supported, encouraged to say, you know what? You can have your cake and eat it too. You can do this and that. Go for your goals. Go the extra mile. My daughter, she loves gymnastics. She looks at Simone Biles and she's like, she doesn't just go and flip on bars like kids in the playground. When she is on those bars, her mind is a lot further than a playground.
Well, Jade,
It's like fostering that.
Well, Jade,
Huh?
I think you need to explain that a little bit more. When you say when she's taking those classes, it's not
Okay, well,
it's not
when you take classes,
it's not the park. She's taking those classes.
she's actually taking professional classes in gymnastics to do what Olympians do.
Yeah.
In the playground, kids can climb, it's okay to climb trees and it's okay to climb, swings and bars and do that. And the kids play and then they go home, right? But to a child who has Olympic vision, and we're not talking about achieving a gold medal because she's not materialistic in that way. It's the fact that she physically is willing to run fast, to do splits, to do cartwheels, to you guys have to Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. To do things that defies gravity. You're flying in the air and landing on your feet. This is not someone just jumping rope. They're doing things with their body that acrobatics people in circuses would do, and you have to do it the right way so that you don't break any part of your body. And in her she gets this big thrill because she's pushing herself beyond what others. She's not even comparing herself to others. She is going after something that defies gravity. Some people who bungee jump and people who jump out of planes are like adrenaline junkies where they just like live for that thrill. Others look at it as suicide, right? But when someone has a goal and a dream and they aspire to do it, what are you going to say to your child? Just here, take the jump rope and that's it. What if they have physical abilities that excel the average child? Not to say anyone can't do it, but it's the ambition. How do you foster that ambitious child? Do you discourage them so that they can put their head down and just get a regular, just be like everybody else? Or do you inspire them to greatness?
You
The
inspire
way
them.
I see it,
You inspire them to be exceptional.
exactly. You go as high and far as you want to go. And don't set the bar low, you set it high. Now, I'm not talking about being unrealistic. Of course, it being Olympic gold medalist is not a job, but fostering that spirit of I can do and be anything is very important, because what are they hearing in schools? Oh, you're not like such and so. The grading system. Remember the Lynch letter where
Mm-hmm.
you have to classify their education?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're not smart according to my records. You
Mm-hmm.
have a habit of achieving a GPA of C or B or whatever, and then they hold that to your face and say you're dumb if you're not like such and so.
Mm-hmm.
No, think outside of the box when you look at your children and say, you know what, you can be anything and go for it. So why are you holding back? Even for yourself. Like what goals did you used to have in your youth that that you've talked yourself out of? No matter how old you are, you wanted to write a book. What happened? You wanted to knit. You wanted to start a community group. You wanted to be a mentor. Whatever it is. I, Jade Phoenix Rising, am familiar with starting and embarking and in challenging myself to learn and do new things. I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid of failure. I don't hold back. I do not hold back. Everything is not for me, because in the Bible it says everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial.
That's correct.
But there's nothing wrong with the process of learning and growing and enriching and having the experience. So if you take a cooking class, I might not be the culinary chef at a certain restaurant, but if I've increased my skill, better for my family, right? So there are things that you can go for and stop discouraging others from going from their dreams. Not everybody has to be an administrative assistant. Not everyone has to be, the janitor. Oh, this is all I could do. This is all I learned. Oh, this is what my papers say I can do. If you're an immigrant or whatever, that you're just trying to reestablish yourself in a new country and environment. Don't limit yourself. The crab mentality is, oh, do only what you know you could do. It's safe. But what happened to your own dream? You never know what you can do until you've done it or until you've tried. And your children, why settle for less? You'd be amazed if they could probably do it even faster than you. We have a lot of youthful CEOs out here. Kids, kids 27 years old making more than 50-year-olds here in New York. They live like it's incredible what they do online. And so maybe it's time for you to learn a new trade. But don't be afraid and don't discourage others that are ambitious because you feel scared. Because that crab mentality suppresses you from your own goals, but it also discourages others from seeking their own. Just because you're afraid to do it doesn't mean everybody needs to live in fear. You know, And so I say, you know, if you're one of those crabs in a barrel, you're holding yourself back and perhaps those around you. And you have to recognize what you're doing is not helpful to you or anyone, you know, because your faith is limited. That's where you are, you know. And success is not always defined in money either. Like Muhammad Ali, when he um, had lost his belts and his titles because he didn't want to serve in the Vietnam War, you know, he chose not to kill. Doesn't that have say something about his values? His belt wasn't worth more than a person's life.
Mm-hmm.
He valued his life as well as the Vietnamese. He's like, not my life. That is not what I want. Yeah, go ahead and put me in jail because I'm not killing anybody. I'm not. And you know what? He won. He stood by his values. He wasn't going to bring down another group of people for the benefit of another.
The Americans had their interest in that country, and it didn't vibe with him. It wasn't his value. I have no desire to kill anyone, nor you're not gonna make me. Oh yeah, you want to take my belt? Go ahead. Because they didn't break his spirit, they didn't break his mentality. He had a conviction and he stood by it.
Yeah.
And so in order for us to break from that slave mentality of, oh, just do as you say, do as you've been told, or if you're the snitch, I got these people in check, ain't I doing good? Guess what? You're a part of the problem. But if you want to be free, as Bob Marley says, you got to free your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have to free your mind because society does what it does well. It is systematically suppressing many people. Yes, financially, we're all have experienced hardships, but where does the change happen? And you, if you want to grow, have to change. You have to. And I'm challenging the people who are crabs, the naysayers. What's wrong with you? You got to look at yourself and say, you know what? Yeah, maybe you played it safe for so long that change is scary to you. But imagine what you could do if you tried. Have you written a book yet? You're smart. Challenge yourself. Learn a new trade because you're gonna see, you know what? I can grow. I can do new things. I can help others. I'm learning so many things right now and I love it. And not only that, with Club Akwaaba, we're educating and encouraging others too. So we're magnifying our voice. We're
Mm-hmm.
not talking amongst ourselves saying, oh, I did a good thing today. No, I take joy in knowing that other people have benefited too. Because you know what? We need to love one another. We need to encourage one another. There's such a deficit right now, you know? And yeah, I'm not rich, but guess what? I love greatly. I love, 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 love educating people. I love encouraging people. I wish I would hear it more from others, but you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I'm not being selfish because I know I have a purpose and I'm here to encourage you to love differently, educate yourself, and elevate others. Don't be selfish. Don't be that crab that, like, you're not going anywhere because you feel uncomfortable. Someone else is moving up. Hey, move up too. Inspire someone else. For those who like to see people sabotage their diets, listen, you go jogging with your friend instead of inviting them to have an extra plate of rice. I'm joking, right? But no, you all have been there, right? Who wants to pass off a jollof rice? You can be really heavy on them carbs. We love them carbs. But at the same time, too, seriously, if someone has a health issue, don't discourage people from being healthy. Don't be selfish. What's the matter with you? What's the matter? So, my friends, we're so grateful that you joined in with us. I mean, we can go on and on and on. We've reached 2 hours in our Narrowcast, and I personally just would love to encourage you to know that we care about you and we encourage you to go against that systematic system where you are destroying your community, and understand and recognize that there's a history that exists that is and is still in place, unfortunately. But even though it is in place, there is something that you can do to help break the cycle so that your children can benefit from growth instead of being, growing in a fear. We don't have to be afraid to be leaders. You know,
Yeah.
we don't have to be afraid to achieve new goals. Not like I keep saying, not everyone is supposed to be a 9 to 5er. You could be the CEO of your own business. You could open your own shop. You could be a designer. You could make jewelry, whatever it is. Start it, you know.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's I want to share two scriptures actually before we close. Or perhaps we can close with these two scriptures. All right. First one is Acts chapter 5. And I'll read it, Jade. Let me just read it. And then the other one is in Exodus. But before, I want to preface, okay, that in order to have a system, in order for us to remove this quote unquote crab mentality, we have to have a system in place. Okay? A system that's going to hold us accountable and a system that's going to punish those who don't go along with our system. You understand, as a people. So if we're going to be a community, if you are a part of this community, there has to be guidelines that we follow. There has to be laws in place. There has to be a code that we adhere to. Okay? Because black brothers and sisters, we are a very, very fragmented people. They have divided us on so many levels. Okay? So in order for us to get back together as Baba Mungu's people, there's going to have to be a system. And most important, there has to be a system that punishes our people. There has to be. Okay? Now, when you start talking like this, most people don't want to hear it. Okay? When you have power, you have to exercise that power. And a lot of our people are afraid of exercising power. But I'm here to tell you, family, that I'm going to build an infrastructure, and anyone that goes against my infrastructure will be punished physically and spiritually. Okay? I'm coming after you physically and spiritually. Now, the scripture that I'm going to read here is Acts chapter 5, starting at verses 1. Now a man named Ananias, together with his wife, Sapphira, okay, also sold a piece of property. You need to read the whole entire thing when you get a chance. With his wife's full knowledge, he kept back part of the money for himself, but brought the rest and put it at the apostles' feet. Then Peter said, Ananias, how is it that Satan has so filled your heart that you have lied to the Holy Spirit and have kept for yourself some of the money you received for the land? Didn't it belong to you before it was sold? And after it was sold, wasn't the money at your disposal? What made you think of doing such a thing? You have not lied you have not lied just to human beings, but to Baba Mungu. When Ananias heard this, he fell down and died. And great fear seized all who heard what had happened. Then some young men came forward, wrapped up his body, and carried him out and buried him. About 3 hours later, his wife came in, not knowing what had happened. Peter asked her, tell me, is this the price you and Ananias got for the land? Yes, she said, this is the price. Peter said to her, how could you conspire to test the spirit of Bwana? Listen, the feet of the man who buried your husband are at the door, and they will carry you out also. At that moment, she fell down at his feet and died. You see, family, when there is an order, when there are laws set in place, not man's laws, but Baba Mungu's laws, when they're set in place, we adhere to those laws. Do you understand? I'm always going to read another scripture. It's in Exodus chapter 32. This is when Moses went to meet up in the mountain. Okay? He went to meet and get instructions. When you get a chance, go ahead and read it. When he came down, obviously, remember, he broke the what do you call it? The stones that had inscriptions of the
tablets.
The tablets, yeah. Yeah. So this is Exodus 32. I'm going to read it 25 to 29. Moses saw that the people were running wild and Aaron had let them get out of control and so become a laughingstock to their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and said, "Whoever is for Bwana, the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites rallied to him. Then he said to them, "This is what Bwana, the Lord, the Mungu, God of Israel, says. Each man strap a sword to his side, go back and forth through the camp from one end to the other, each killing his brother and friend and neighbor." The Levites did as Moses commanded, and that day about 3,000 of the people died. Then Moses said, "You have been set apart to Bwana today, okay? For you were against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you this day." Now, family, I read the scripture. It might sound very, very violent. Yes. Okay? Many of your kids are killed every day by the hands of the wicked enemies. Every day. They conspired against you, but it's because most of you people are treacherous against your own. We're not organized as a people. We use meritorious manumission against one another. We lie against one another. We steal from one another. Yeah. We are morally corrupt. So most of our people, some of our people, yes, deserve to die. We participate in crooked things. We do immoral things to our own people. What do you expect? So family, if there's going to be a unified body of people, if we're going to be a people that the Father called us chosen people, we first have to acknowledge, we have to look at the things that we do that are wicked against one another. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the Negroes in South America who pretend to be white, but they're niggers. Okay? They conveniently become black when they are around our people, when they get the benefits. Here in America, there's a lot of Negroes who call themselves Spanish. Okay? But if you're Afro-Latino and you acknowledge you're African, then you're awakened. But if you are not awakened, you're one of those pretenders. Okay? You take on our cultures, you steal our music, you take stuff from us, convenient, when it's convenient for you. You're black conveniently. You eat our food, you have our dances, your women have our behinds, but they want to be white. That's got to be the most, for me, it's like ludicrous. It's like beyond me. You've got to be demonically possessed. They use our spirituality. Santeria. What do you think come on, man. That's another topic, Jade. But anyway, and then we have our Negroes on the islands who don't want to acknowledge that they're Africans. They might be ashamed. And then they come to the Americas and they become divisive. Yes, the African Americans have their own issues here in America. And then we have got Negroes on a continent who pretend to be. We've got Negroes who think that they're French. If they go to Europe, they think that they are more European than the Europeans.
Well, this goes hand in hand with the classification and the Lynch letter, that where we have created sub-classifications for ourselves and have neglected to acknowledge our mother. You know, there's a lot of ignorance, and then there's also a lot of shame. There's also a lot of you can say people pleasing, because when you mention French, it's like then they're like catering towards, oh, I'm light skinned and my hair is fine and curly, therefore I'm more white than you, but you still have Negro blood in you. So you're gonna try to love one side and then forsake the other. And we have to stop what do you call it? Being dissentious to our own race. This is
Yes.
our heritage. We are basically, you know, hating ourselves, hating our heritage. Why should you be ashamed that you have Black ancestry? You know, because there's a lot of light-skinned Blacks all over the world. But when you act like, well, I was never Black and I'm 50% this and 60% that, but you still have African DNA. So what are you talking about? Hair
That's
texture is not the only thing,
that's
you
dominant.
know.
That's dominant.
Yes, and
Uh,
that thinking derives from the Lynch letter of treatment, where we now subclassified ourselves. Like whites, they just get a bottle of peroxide and bleach their hair and they call it a day, right? If they can afford to get Botox, they'll like change their appearance. But for us, you know, they're not gonna say I'm Black now. There's an exception. Like you Google it, you can find some crazies that actually have over tan to the point where they think they're Black. But listen, DNA is DNA, okay? But what we're talking about is being ashamed of your race and trying to classify you something else because you can pass for something else. Why be ashamed of your African ancestry? Because if you actually go back in time, it all started in Africa anyway. You know,
hmm.
there was what one large continent on the whole planet, and then it broke up. Like you got to do your history now. Why are you going to be ashamed? You know, you still have a lot to learn. But even in of itself, again, today's message really is about the crab mentality where we are suppressing and hurting ourselves and our people. And yes, there also has to be something in terms of accountability, because there's a lot of like even with the racism now, like, you know, the way they beat and treat um people for crimes that they're not even crimes. Like get pulled over in a car in America and see what happens. You may not even be speeding. You might not even live after that pullover. Okay, so there's some extreme racism that is deeply that is here and or in your country, and we have to stand up against it and say no more. You know, we have been targeted. Our color makes us stand out. You're different. Yes, we are different. But we have to also, with the scriptures that you shared, we have to honor God. Because in all of this fighting, the when you read the Old Testament, you will see that God wanted us to be obedient to Him first. Because if we obeyed Him and His principles, we wouldn't have been in this mess. This is us in our carnal selves, where we ourselves are so selfish that we don't even honor Him first. It's us first. What I want, what I need. I want this so badly that I'm willing to Cain and Abel, kill my brother.
Hmm.
You know, I'm willing to we see this in royal families where people die and their sons or whoever never becomes king or prince. That an accident happens. That there's jealousy within royal families. There's you don't even have to be rich. Jealousy.
where you kill your brother or your sister, even spiritually, emotionally, physically, where you don't want anyone to rise. Collectively, we could do so much as a community. How many of you have that uncle that stole land? You know, so someone died in the family and you were supposed to inherit it, but someone who was older than you stole the papers. People have those stories where you have people within your own family that want to steal your own birthright. Instead of the family coming to help one another, there's some deception and greed to the point where people steal people's birthright. You know, so we got to stop doing it to ourselves, but we also need to, within this element of discussion, need to acknowledge that we need to serve our Father first, because his commands are written, they exist. There is a way and order to doing things. And when we step outside of that, we're just being carnal. It's all for flesh, all what I want. And nobody agrees on anything because everybody wants it now.
Yeah.
But
Well,
we have to be wise and protect one another too, because there are laws that are written that need to be changed.
there will be
You know?
change. There will be change.
And the change starts with you recognizing what your rights are. We don't have to subject ourselves to say, well, this is how it is. This is how it is. Martin Luther King spoke up, and no, it didn't have to stay that way. There are people bold enough to say this is wrong. And he did it peacefully. You know?
Yeah.
We also know he was martyred, but listen, change happened, but there's still so much more we can do. And there's still room for new heroes.
Yeah.
For new people who are woke to speak up and say, you know what, we're tired of this. We've had enough.
Yeah, family. I mean, as the scripture in the book of Acts, the scripture that I just read, it gives you an example of what a church is supposed to be. When they got together, they collectively collected the monies. People did what they have to do to bring the money together. And then the money was taken by the leaders, and then it was divided upon the congregation based on needs. There is no church like that today. Okay? What you have is a figurehead that's always asking for money. Family, if you go to a church and the church is not supporting, it's not building business, it's not supporting the community, that church is an enemy to you. It's not a church of the Father. Okay? Because if you read the Old Testament, these people have been stealing from Baba Mungu even then. Okay? I'm going to get a topic on that. I'm going to break it down for you people. In the scriptures. That when you understand something? The titles of these prophets and these ministers, apostles, whatever you call them, they're supposed to be gathering people and feeding, all right? Like Isaiah KONGO, Jesus said, feed my sheep when he told Peter, okay? And that's what Peter was doing right there. He was getting the money together to feed the congregation. So if the church is collecting money and the money is not servicing the people, is not meeting the needs of the people, you're not in the church, my friend. You're in some kind of business that does not belong. It's not a church. Okay? So people need to wake up. And collectively, if we don't have a system in place that supports the collective, instead is not helping the community, that system, that organization does not need to be supported. Okay, it's not a ministry of the one individual. It's the ministry for the people. The minister, if you look up the word minister, the minister is a servant. Okay, they serve the congregation. When Isaiah KONGO says, let me wash your feet, when he was telling his disciples that, he was giving them a description of what a leader in the kingdom of Baba Mungu is supposed to do. So I'm gonna give you guys I'm gonna give you a description, and you need to challenge people that come to you and tell you that they are a leader of a servant of Baba Mungu. You better examine them closely. Okay? This quote unquote awakening movement that's coming along, I'm gonna challenge a lot of these leaders. Okay? I'm gonna challenge a lot of them. All right? So with that I said, you have any last words, Jade?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us in this Narrowcast. We hope that what we've shared with you brings some insight. Just remember that, the opinions we have is purely just that, but we encourage you to do your research. We have links attached with this Narrowcast that you can do your own research. And also, too, just, in the Bible, it always says test the spirits. But also, too, you will also need to test yourself, because we have, in this world, we can become corrupt. Our thinking can be tainted. Our faith you can be a narrow-sighted, or should I say nearsighted, and you don't see beyond your circumstance. But if you can change your mentality and change your perspective on things, you can do better. Okay? If you want to aspire to greatness, go for it. But you have to acknowledge where you're at and what you're doing that's not effective and that's not serving yourself and your community. Because God, when he created the world, if you think about Genesis, he said to go and prosper. He wanted us to do great things. He didn't say go and be self-destructive. You go here and you go there. That was Lot going in one direction and his cousin going the other. It's like we've
His
parted
uncle.
ways, right?
Yeah.
His uncle. We parted ways and we no longer help one another. And so there is self-destruction within ourselves, and then there's destruction because of those who don't serve the Lord. So it's important for us to see this, acknowledge it, and make some changes so that we're in accordance. We're doing what is right in our Father's eyes. Because even if you don't have, and I'm going to put it in quotes, selfish ambition to better yourself, because it's not really about the material. Collectively, we're self-destructive, so we don't inspire others to grow. You have to start with yourself. Okay? I'm always self-reflecting, and every year I'm always looking for ways to improve myself. Okay? But with that said, I encourage you to do the same. We can do great. We can do more. What was that quote we had in that poster we shared the other day, Silverback? Together we can do more.
We can do more.
Help
Which
others.
I totally forgot, Jade.
Help others. Okay. Well, we'll recall it, but collectively we can do more. Help others. Okay. Help yourself and help others. We can do great things. And this is not just empty words of cliche, positive thinking quotes. We actually have the ability to do great things.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, I just encourage you to soak this in, reflect, and be better. Do better.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for joining, family. May Baba Mungu bless your walk. May his light be with you, your family, and may all that you do glorify the Father. May you be your brother's keeper, your sister's keeper, and your neighbor's keeper. May all we do together collectively, may it be a blessing unto, or should I say, may it glorify the Father, and may it be a blessing unto our children, and our children's children, and the many generations to come. Bye-bye now. Take care.
Thank you.